All right, everyone. The time here in Sweden are 2 o'clock, and I guess in some British summertime it's 1 o'clock. So we are ready to start. Really good to see so many people attending this session. And for those of you who were in Randy Chapman's session just before this is going to touch upon many things that he talked about, but maybe in a more high level area. So he had a deep dive, and we're going to go a bit higher up to find out if Teams voice and video ready for your organization. We're going to have a session at the end for questions, but if you have questions during the sessions, go ahead, use the I am session, or if it's really urgent, unmute yourself and ask the question so we don't miss anything while we're going. So what I'm going to go through to this, actually in the beginning I had 30 minutes, but going through the content I realized that I will use about 40 minutes as the rest of the sessions today. So I hope that's okay for you, that I have extended this session to 40 minutes instead of 30 minutes. All right, we're going to look through the different options we have for Teams voice, for the requirements and what features to expect. And we're also going to look into the Teams video. And I'm going to look into the different options we have when it comes to conference room, and especially for those traditional video conferencing rooms that some might have, or working with third-party partners that do that kind of meeting rooms. My name is Mårten Hellebro. I live in Sweden. I work for a company called Cloudway. We are 6 MVPs spread around in the world, and we focus much on Teams and Skype, of course, and we also do enterprise EMS, enterprise mobility suite, as in Intune's Azure AD, security, Windows 10 deployments, and things like that. I'm a Microsoft MVP. I have worked with Lync and Sky for Business for like 10 years now. And of course, Microsoft Teams for the last maybe 2 years. And during that time, and also before that, I worked with Enterprise Voice. And I've been in that area for about 20 years now. So I guess I'm starting to get old. I blog into my Microsoft Teams SWE blog. I do that in Swedish. I try to convert everything that comes out from Redmond and make it in a Swedish way, and that makes sense to the Swedish users and also the users in the Nordics. And together with my good friend Linus, we do Teams Podden, which is a Teams podcast where we talk about Teams, also in Swedish. And we have the Swedish Unified Communications Club, also known as the SUC Club. Anyway, is Teams voice ready for your organization? Yeah, so this is 2 parts. The first part is voice, and by voice I mean telephony, how you can make and receive phone calls using Microsoft Teams. And a little spoiler alert, yes, it is ready. So, and let's find out why and how. To be able to make phone calls in Microsoft Teams, we need some kind of connection to the PSTN network. And PSTN is the Public Switch Telephone Network, which is a worldwide network where all phones in the entire world are connected. And for this to work, we had to connect our Office 365 to that PSTN network. And for that, we have 2 different ways to do it. Either we do the Microsoft calling plans, where Microsoft is the carrier, or we could do it with direct routing, where we basically bring our own zip trunk to Office 365. I'm going to focus this session on direct routing or direct routing, depending on your personal preferences, because that's what's available in the most part of the world, and especially in the Nordics, where I live. It's built around Office 365 and the phone system license.
Yeah.
And someone is not muted. Could we have? All right. And the phone system is the basic, that's the functionality that both direct routing and calling plans are using to get the telephony features within Office 365. Actually, it's the same features that are available for Skype for Business, but we're not gonna touch on that in this session. The license could either be an add-on to your enterprise or academic subscriptions. It's included in the E5. And calling plans. As I said, it's not available in many countries. I have listed them there. It's supposed to be 11 countries. Some of them are having local help from local carriers to bring that functionality in. You can go with either a domestic calling plan or a domestic and international calling plans, and it uses the communication credits to build the calls that are not included in your plan. But as I said, we're going to focus on direct routing. So I'm just mentioning calling plans for those countries where it's available. I'm going to move on to audio conferencing, which is the option for your users or the attendants to a Teams meeting to use a phone and call into that meeting. It's available in 72 countries with dial-in numbers in 90 countries and 400 cities. And you get this with a single license, and you get access to all those numbers. So not that you have to pay extra for different countries. There's also a license for this, the audio conferencing license. It's either a fixed price or a pay per minute price. And it also uses the communication credits to bill for calls that are not included in your plan. But direct routing, there is where we're going to spend this time on this session. Direct routing is a way to get your PSTN connection onto your Office 365 tenant. And the thing here is that you have all the options to select your own carrier. You can have the session border controller, which acts as a gateway between the PSTN network and your Office 365. There are a couple of certified vendors for that, and it's you choose what you want. Together with a certified session border controller, you need a certificate, some kind of PSTN access. Could be a zip trunk or an ISDN or a PRI or something like that. It could also be that someone else are hosting your session border controllers, a carrier or a telco, for example, and then you could just buy this as a service. And you can also have some kind of PBX integration. I'm gonna show you how this very basic, how it's set up very basically. So at the right on your screen, you see the Office 365 Cloud, and you have a Teams user and a Teams phone. And that user and that phone wants to be able to make and receive phone calls. And for that, you need session border controllers. That could either be running in your own data centers or in your own drawer as Randy pointed out, not recommended, but possible. It can be either virtual or physical, or it can be run as at a carrier, a telco. So you have the full cloud solution, buy as a service, I mean. And you can also run them in Azure or in other public clouds. So it's very flexible there. And yeah, and also you do the pairing between the session border controllers and Office 365, and then you add licenses and phone numbers to the users, and then they can make phone calls. Very simple. And for the audio conferencing, the dial into Teams meetings, you have that separately from this. So that does not have anything to do with either calling plans or direct routing. So it's a separate service and a separate license. And also, if you have a PBX already on premise, you can do some kind of integration there. You can take your own phone number, so you can do number manipulation or whatever you want to do that, because you are in the control of your session border controllers. All right, I'm not going to dig into the fine details about this. If you are interested in how this is set up, I recommend watching Randy Chapman's session that was just before mine. Just pointing out here the basic steps that you're going through. In Office 365, you pair your SBC by setting up an online PST and gateway. You set the PST in usage, a voice route, and a voice routing policy. And then on the user side, you enable the user for enterprise voice. You set the hosted voicemail and the phone number. After that, you grant the calling policy and then the online voice routing policy. And then you wait. And then you wait a bit more. So this could take some time. So the recommendation is that do this on a Friday afternoon, and then on Monday morning, everyone will come to work happy, having phone capabilities in their Teams client. Licensing. In this case, Miriam has Office 365 E5, which includes the phone system. And you can see that she has a Teams license, phone system license, and a Skype for Business online license. And with that, she's good to go for Teams telephony. But when we assign the phone number, if you not go the the PowerShell way, we have to go into Skype for Business Admin Center, at least for now. Changes are coming. But for now, Skype for Business Admin Center is where you set your phone number to the users. But very soon this will move into the Microsoft Teams Admin Center. Of course, that's where it should belong. There's a question here if the delay for applying the policy is documented somewhere. I don't know if it's officially documented, but it's a public knowledge that these things takes time. And there's another question about certified Teams IP phones. Do we still need SBA function when WAN failure? You mean a survival SBA, survival branch appliance? That's not available for Teams, and we can follow up on that question later. But speaking of WAN failure or network connectivity, a phone system is useless if the audio quality is not good. Then everything fails. So after this session, my good friend Linus will do a session in this room, so stay tuned, of how to ensure that your network is capable and ready for your voice Teams traffic. But to monitor the call quality, we have something for the direct routing SBCs. We have a health dashboard where we can see the current status of our configured session border controllers. And also what's important is the call quality dashboard, where you can go in and see both overall quality of the phone calls or actually all voice activity within Teams and Skype for Business, but Teams. And you can also drill down to see, to find those where it's been problem. It could be either a subnet that has a problem, or a building, or an office somewhere, or a specific user with a device that's not working as it should. So really good tool available in Office 365. You have to enable it, and so we can start collecting data before you can make use of it. But if you haven't, go and activate your call quality dashboard. All right, call features. What do you get with the phone system? Well, you get auto attendant and call queues. Well, of course, at the beginning, you get the ability to make a phone call from a Teams client and also receive a phone call within your Teams client. And the client can be a desktop, your Mac, your tablet, your iPad, your iPhone, your Android device, and your web browser. And very recently, they enabled calling features even for the Chrome browser and the Chromium browser. So that's good. So, but what you get except for that, you get auto attendance and call queues. I'm gonna go through some graphics, I almost said, but some so you can see how it's work. We have a phone call comes in, and it comes to our auto attendant, where we have configured a welcome message, which says, "Welcome, press 1 for support and 2 for sales." And that we are already in the auto attendance. And in this case, we have the two options, and those two options are call queues. And we press 1 for support, and then the call is routed to the call queue. And in that call queue, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 agents. 3 of them are available. They are green. The other one is not available. So when the call comes in, it's offered to those 3 available agents. And that can be either call everyone at the same time, or round robin, or in a specific order. And hopefully some of them picks up the call. That's the basic of auto attendance and call queues. You also get a group call pickup, which is a similar thing when you have different users answering a common phone number. You also have delegation, where you can set other people to monitor your phone, make phone calls from you, and basically manage your phone. And also on the user side, we can set up call forwarding, simultaneous ring. Also, we can create our own call group. When I'm not feeling like answering my calls, I can have my own group of colleagues answering for me. Very convenient. Yeah, of course, voicemail. We can connect calls. Can forward calls either with or without consulting first, and we can put on hold. And now we can also do a call park and a busy on busy. So there's a lot of features within that phone system functionality in Office 365. And here you can see how it looks from the client side, that is within the Microsoft Teams client. You can see it here, what happens if I'm not answering. Should you call me on the other phone or forward to my colleague or things like that. And we also have settings for voicemail. Here's another feature that not many have found because it's a bit hidden. But here you can decide what happens when people are calling you. You can set up play a greeting message and then record a message in your voicemail. That's like the default configuration. But you can just play a greeting and then hang up or transfer the call to someone else. And then also an option to play out of office messages when you're not available. And because either if you have out of office in your Outlook, for example, when you are on vacation, the voice can say that the person you are seeking or actually try to say your name and says that is not available and will be back according to your calendar. And I can also be on if you have booked a meeting in Outlook, you can actually have Office 365 read out that you're not available and will be back at 3 o'clock, something like that. All right, moving on. A Teams voice solution is not a good solution if you not have the ability to have an attendant or a switchboard or receptionist, depending on the size of your company, of course, but companies like 100 users or up usually requires some kind of attendant feature as in a human. There have been a huge demand for having this feature like we had in Skype for Business, because attendant and switchboard and also call center agents were a big thing in Skype for Business, but with Teams we have not had that possibilities yet. But it is coming. We have a few first vendors ready to do a proof of concept using APIs that are connected not to the client that we used to in Skype for Business, but rather APIs to Office 365 or Graph. So I'm really looking forward to that. Gonna dig into that much further, but there are many people, many companies that have been waiting for this, and finally it starts to hit the market, and more will come, which is great. Before that, before there was an ability to have a proper attendant in Teams, many vendors had done a Teamsified Skype version of their existing answering services. So in theory, or actually in practice, the attendants were still on Skype for Business, while the rest of the company could have moved on to Teams and Teams only. It was not the good solution, but it was a solution to use in the meantime. Call center has a lot of things in common with attendant and switchboard. They all have been APIs available for a time now, and it's a maturing functionality. It started off very basic, but it's getting there with more features as we go. So if you have the need for attendant switchboard or call center, this is the time to actually start looking at the Teams as a solution for your entire telephony solution. And Teams devices. Please do not forget about devices. Headsets. No voice solution is as good as their headset is. A bad experience due to a bad headset is it's quite common, unfortunately, because there are a lot of good headsets out there, and there are also a lot of crappy ones and built into laptops and comes with your phone that you just bought, So please find the proper certified headsets. Skype for Business certified headsets works in Microsoft Teams, or supposed to work in Microsoft Teams. So go for those. There are some problem that you probably have noticed, that if you're running Skype and Teams together at the same time on your machine, the call answering buttons and things like that, the mute buttons, it's rather controlled by Skype. So and Microsoft is working on that, but before they have solved that, the recommendation is to close down the Skype for Business client running on your PC, and then you are good to go with Teams and all the buttons and functions you need. Also, I just recently learned that within the certification process of Skype and Teams devices, there are also a certain level of quality assurance. All devices that are going through the certification process is tested in a lab environment, and they have a basic level of quality in terms of handling echo and built-in functionalities to handle that kind of thing. So that's also a big reason to go for the certified devices. Desk phones, yes, there are desk phones for Teams. There are use cases for them. It's not that it has been in decades that everyone needs a desk phone, but for some kind of users, some kind of scenarios, there's still a requirement to use a desk phone instead of a headset. And of course, there are solutions for that. So in the case with Teams phones, it is Microsoft that builds and ships the software that runs within the phone, and then there's a couple of vendors that had built phones around those. And I don't know how many of you that remember the Link Phone Edition that came out in 9 years ago, maybe, with Link 2010. We had a similar approach where Microsoft built the software and then vendors built the phone. It has some pros and some cons, but at the moment it is what it is if you want a native Teams phone. But you can still use your Skype certified phones to be used within Teams. They are called 3PIP phones. I think it stands for third party IP phones. And they can be used within for a Teams user. Just make sure that you upgrade them by, I think it's January 2020, where Microsoft will unenable, say that, TLS functionality in Office 365. So you just make sure that you have upgraded yours 3PIP phones before that. Here are some examples of 3PIP phones, that is Skype certified phones. And also go into the aka.ms Teams devices to find your favorite devices for your voice solution. All right, that was the Teams voice. Now we're going to the video. Is Teams video ready for your organization? And again, we have a spoiler alert. Yes, it is. All right, and this is how and why. Microsoft Teams Room, MTR, and Skype Room system have been around for a while, at least the Skype Room system. Dedicated hardware and software for smooth and enjoyable Skype or Teams meetings. Some Skype Room systems can be created to Microsoft Teams rooms, but not all of them, so you have to look into that. And also we have the former Skype enabled conference room, when you basically bring your own laptop and you plug it into a camera and speakerphone and a projector or a big screen television in that room. And that can just easily be transferred to Microsoft Teams. And we have the Surface Hub, of course, special kind of user use case. And we have the huddle rooms. We are very popular nowadays, the small rooms that we now have the possibility to enable even with video in those as well. But what about external participants? How do they get into your Teams meeting? Well, as many of you already know, there's a really good browser experience when you join a Teams meeting. But what about the traditional video conferencing rooms? We're going to look into those in a while. The Microsoft Teams room, the MTR, I'm not going to cover this in depth. I think there's another session in this Oktoberfest where it talks about the Microsoft Teams room. But there's a specific license for that, which includes the Teams and Skype licensing together with the phone system, so you can dial in and dial out together with audio conferencing, and also manageable by Intunes. And here is also the aka.ms Teams devices for you to find your preferred devices. But the Teams video and the traditional video conferencing rooms, I guess you all seen those kind of rooms from like Polycom or Cisco, Tandberg, Lifesize, yeah, Yealink, vendors like that. Often very expensive, flashy conferencing rooms systems that perhaps not everyone are very comfortable with or know how they're working, but there are surprisingly many of them out there. So how do we get those into our Microsoft Teams meeting? Because even if we want to, we cannot just go in and rip and replace them with Microsoft Teams room, because they're need to get the investment back and things like that. But for this, we have 3 service provider, which is Pexip, Poly, and BlueJeans. That makes a gateway for those traditional conferencing room into a Teams meeting. And the traditional video conferencing room, the VTCs, are actually a growing market and is used by 90% of the Fortune 500 companies. And there are a large existing investments out there. And as I said, it's actually a growing market. So that's why we need to have those in our planning. It's a cloud video interop gateway that is built in Azure. And it has special APIs into the Microsoft Teams environment. And since it is a gateway, it transcodes the signaling between those rooms and the Microsoft Teams. And the beauty of this is that the users on the traditional conferencing rooms have their native experience. They think they are having conversation or meetings with other people using the same kind of equipment. And on the other hand, the Teams user are having Teams meetings as if there were only Teams meeting participants in that meeting. And it works both way, supports dual screen, content sharing, and things like that. So when do you need this? Is when you have a large deployment of meeting rooms already available and working, and you want to have a quick integration with Microsoft Teams and to get like to maximize your existing investments in those meeting rooms. And also if you have a strong user experience with the traditional meeting rooms. And also a good point here is that if you are in a transition from Skype for Business on-prem to Microsoft Teams, those two clients cannot meet in the same meeting. But with this cloud video interop, you can actually have Skype for Business online meetings join Microsoft Teams meeting, and that could be a very good thing when you are in that kind of scenario on transitioning. Going through a bit of how it's set up. On the left side, we have the Microsoft Azure. We have a Teams connector that connects to the Microsoft Teams environment. We have a management console and a conf node, which handles the traditional conferencing room. And you see on the right-hand side that we have some endpoints going into a Teams meeting through that conference node. And there is a possibility or an option to register those conferencing rooms. So when they join as a authenticated user, which means that they do not end up in the lobby if you not want that. So there's a solution for that. And I'm not going to get too technical about this, but it's an Azure VM Scale set, which means it can be scaled up and scaled down depending on the workload you have. And the good thing here is that not paying for resources that you're not using. So that's a good thing that this is built on Azure and utilizing the features in there. And how does it look when you are joining this kind of meeting? Well, it's a traditional Outlook invite. You schedule your meetings as you are used to. But then when you have this enabled, you get the meeting join link for a VTC, as you can see that at number 2. And also together with the conferencing ID. So, and I'm going to show you a short video of how this works in reality, or more than in a demo. So we're going to start it here. All right. So here we have the Outlook invitation. You see it in the Microsoft Teams. And here we have a Cisco device. We click to join the meeting. And we have the Teams user and the Surface Hub. And so here's a Cisco Spark, I think, and join the same meeting. And here we had joined. And now we're going to share content through a laptop. Share as a PowerPoint. You can see it on different Cisco devices, and here is the original Microsoft Teams content. And we have Surface Hub here as well. So that's how it looks when you are joining a Teams meeting, which it is, but with other clients joining as well. So is Teams voice and video ready for your organization? What do you say, guys? Is it? Yeah, I would say it is. So we'll check that. And with that, I'm gonna open up for questions.